Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today it's time to review the new Ghost studio album, Skeleta. Hope you guys had a great rockin' Skeleta Eve. Maybe you even got to go to one of the listening parties last night. Let's dive in here with some fast album facts. Skeleta is the sixth studio album by the Swedish rock and metal band Ghost, released today on April 25th, 2025 through Luma Vista Records, and it's the follow-up to Umbra from 2022. And as for the personnel on this record, V is here, finally. Hopefully he got through the door. Papa V Perpetua, aka Tobias Forge, on lead vocals, alongside a group of nameless ghouls, and you have Frederick from Opeth as well on guitars for this record, which is really cool. And it was produced by Gene Walker, who previously worked with the band on Opus Eponymous and 7 Inches of Satanic Panic EP. Also, just a heads up, this review will include Skeletor spoilers, so if you've been, avoiding the setlist or avoiding listening to any of the live audio and bootlegs that have been leaked out on the internet, I would say watch at your own risk. So instead of doing my top 5 favorite songs from the album like I usually do with new album reviews, I decided because, a lot of Ghost songs take some time to grow on you, and quite frankly my top 5 today might be totally different tomorrow, I'm going to go track by track here. There are 10 songs in total, so let's get started with track number 1, Peacefield. Kicks off here with, vocals from a choir before the riff kicks in, and that instantly reminded me of old school Ghost. Definitely one of the most beautiful intros, I think, in the Ghost catalog, and this track does a phenomenal job of setting the tone for the rest of the album because it's very 80s. Think Spillways from Impera meets Separate Ways by Journey. Very poppy with a wordy but really catchy chorus, and of course I should have known not to give in, but I did, and I've been listening to the live bootlegs from this tour since it started. It makes for a great live set opener. Live they do it a bit faster, but the album version has grown on me a ton since the band put it out as a single a few days ago. Next we have Lachryma, the second single released for the album here. Love the riff on this track, and the more I hear this song, the more I get, Dance Macabre vibes from it, and especially the chorus. I don't know if anybody else hears that, maybe I'm crazy, but I love the overall vibe of this track. It feels like something from, a campy 80s horror movie soundtrack. Great harmonies as well, and the guitar solo is great. This whole record really is a great showcase for the guitar work, and, Tobias really let the ghouls rip on this record for sure. Track number 3, Satanized, and this is already a Ghost classic, in my opinion, this song. This was the lead single for the record, which instantly had me pre-ordering the album, and I love the Latin chanting section, very Opus Eponymous of them, I think, and this is a song that I think could fit really in any era of the band. It's a total earworm, and probably my favorite guitar solo on the record as well. Right up there with Respite on the Spitalfields for one of my favorite Ghost solos of all time. The chorus is so powerful, and, from what audio I've heard from the Skeletor, this is a great sing-along live, and I could definitely tell why they chose this to be the lead single for the record. Really, the first 3 songs on this album are all commercially accessible, which I think Ghost have proven isn't always a bad thing. Satanized in particular is a song that does a fantastic job of kind of finding that middle ground between, keeping the longtime hardcore fans happy and catering to the mainstream radio fans as well. We follow that up here with Guiding Lights. Really solid ballad. The harmonies and the melodies are great, and this reminds me of an early Ghost song, and the idea of writing heavy hymns and stuff like that. And the solo on this track is more restrained, especially compared to the first 3 tracks, but the shorter melodic soloing is also reminiscent of early Ghost, and this song I think could definitely work live in a similar context as He Is. You can't hold up your phone flashlights anymore, but I guess you can still hold up your lighters if you carry one. Track 5, De Profundis Borealis. I really like the lyrics on this track, but otherwise I feel like it kind of blends in with Guiding Lights. The chorus is promising, but ultimately I was ending up wanting more from this track, although I do love the outro with more choral chanting, which seems like another nod to some of the band's earlier records. After that, we have track 6 entitled Cenotaph, and this was a song that I gained a better appreciation for after reading the lyrics. Tobias Forge really is a great lyricist, and this record is generally more introspective, I'd say, than any Ghost album up to this point. I think it's really interesting how the lyrics are super depressing, knowing the context behind them, but, the tone of this track is more upbeat with an interesting gallop. Probably my least favorite song on the record so far, personally, but I think this song is a grower. I just need a little bit more time with it. Number 7, Missilia Amori. Now, I've seen some people giving this track a hard time for its lyrics. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cheesy, but this whole record seems to be mirrored in, glam metal influence, and that just wouldn't be complete without a cheesy power ballady love song, now would it? You know? My first impression of this song was, this sounds like something from Turbo by Judas Priest, which is in my notes, but, you know, it's pretty unique charm to it after several listens, and in terms of fan reception, I'm already drawing comparisons between this track and 20s from Impera, in the sense that it's pretty unorthodox and different for Ghost, with corny lyrics, and people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. Personally, I really dig it. I think it's fun, and just the right amount of 80s cheese. Track 8, Marks of the Evil One. You know, lyrically, this wouldn't sound out of place on an album like Infesta Sumam or Meliora. The tone of the track is pretty heavy, but otherwise, this is pretty poppy, right? Otherwise, the music would not fit on those two records, but Tobias is using interesting vocal delivery here and style in the chorus, and some people are going to find it annoying, but I think it has potential to catch on, and I can imagine this song going over well live. For whatever reason, the chorus reminds me a little bit of Watcher in the Sky from Impera, but I think it's a lot of fun with some massive hooks to it. I'm a fan. Who knew what this record needed was more cowbell? Track number 9 here is Umbra. You know, I mean, the cowbell, what a great addition to a song that definitely sets it apart from the rest of the album, and this is a straightforward ghost rocker, definitely the closest I think we get to Meliora on the record, and I cannot speak highly enough of the instrumental section of this track. Great guitar and keyboard solos, which gives off massive Deep Purple vibes to me, and the band are already playing this one live on the Skeletor. I'd heard, you know, a ton of good things about this one, and definitely lives up to the hype as far as I'm concerned. The band takes some really interesting chances here, and compositionally, this is probably the most interesting song on the record. And lastly, track number 10, we have Excelsis, my favorite song currently on the record. What an album closer, you know, I mean, this one hit me like a ton of bricks. Beautiful lyrics here by Tobias Forge that are just like a gut punch, you know, and Ghost do ballads so well, and the atmosphere of this song is crushing. Another excellent guitar solo on this song, and the melodies are really interesting, and I'm not understanding the hate this track is getting by some people. I'd say give it more time. It'll grow on you, you know, and we go through this every album cycle. You'll probably end up loving it in a few weeks. It's just how Ghost songs work. But, you know, it feels like Life Eternal 2.0, which, for the record, Life Eternal is my favorite Ghost song of all time, so maybe that's why I'm already loving this one so much. But the early reviews weren't kidding when they said this album was going to be an emotional roller coaster, and I think this is the perfect way to close it out. Overall, I'm giving this album an 8 out of 10 with a high probability that rating will go higher. You know, the thing with Ghost is you can't just listen to the album once and put it away, you know, and that's why I didn't want to do a top 5 this time for this record, because my list of favorite songs will be totally different, maybe by tomorrow, definitely by next week. So I figured I'd run down the entire track listing instead, and, you know, this record has an undeniable big sound to it. I love the production here, and for people who say that Ghost aren't the same band they used to be, I mean, of course they're not. You know, they're 15 years old now, and, you know, the evolution of their sound has been really cool, and their range continues to grow, and this record is a really solid showcase for their 80s hair metal and pop rock influences. This record is full of arena rockers with a big MTV era feel to it, and I can definitely hear influences from bands like Dokken and Journey throughout. You know, the ballads are really well done, the guitar work here is superb. Really interesting to hear some shredding guitar solos on this record as well, which I thought was cool. Was not expecting that, and, you know, I'm convinced you could stick Tobias Forge in any era of metal, whether it be the 70s, 80s, 90s, or, you know, the Pop and Nil stuff from the 60s, and he would, you know, still find a way to make it work, in my opinion. You know, there's some definite callbacks on Skeleta to the band's, you know, past works as well, which I thought was kind of cool. You can kind of draw, you know, similarities and parallels to a number of different songs to some of their previous releases here, but I'd say that my only criticism of this record is that I think putting De Profundis Borealis and Cenotaph next to each other kind of drags down the middle of the record, so those are probably my two least favorite songs. But, you know, if you're not a fan of some of the songs on this record and they just haven't clicked yet, I'd recommend to just keep listening. That's the thing with Ghost is, you know, sometimes it takes a few listens to formulate a full opinion, and, you know, I'm 6 listens in at this point, and I'm still noticing new things on the album with every listen. I'm going to see them live later this summer, and I cannot wait to hear some of these tracks in their set list. Very pleased with this album. I think 8 out of 10 is fair, and, you know, my copy should arrive in the mail, my physical copy I've been listening to on Spotify, but my CD should arrive in the mail later today. Can't wait for that, to keep listening. And, you know, I see, you know, some negative reviews for this album so far. Like I said, I would recommend it. Just continue to listen to it. It'll probably grow on you like all Ghost albums tend to do, you know, but, you know, when it comes down to it, I can't wait to see where this album ends up on my, you know, mid-year review, counting down the best rock and metal albums of 2025 so far in a few months. So that wraps up this review of the new Ghost studio album, Skeleta. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and be sure to let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on the record. Was anything surprising to you on this album? Were you pleased with the record? Were you underwhelmed? What are some of your favorite songs? I definitely want to hear from you, so let me know all that good stuff down in the comments. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.